Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Monday. It is May the 20th, and we are rolling live right now on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Make sure that you have hit the like button at some point in time while you're watching our stream. If you want to follow the channel, you can do that there. If you want to subscribe to the channel, it's $5 a month. It goes 100% to us. We really appreciate that. It's pretty cool. A lot of you guys have started to do that. And I see an awful lot of the McGroin Nation showing up in the chat this morning. It's McGroin, including King Slutsky McGroin, named after the fantastic Columbia socialist who got out and had the best name on television. Folks, follow us here on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. If you're seeing us anywhere else, we get censored everywhere. We really do. And we get demonetized and we get turned off on YouTube. God forbid I ever pick up like an actual firearm to show you something like, oh, this is what a ghost gun, I'll throw it in the air quotes, looks like. That's where we get shut down. And we don't get shut down on Rumble. So we really appreciate them, and we appreciate you guys following us over there. Make sure you're doing so. Thanks for being in the chat for all of you this morning. We got a bunch to cover on. First of all, it was a big weekend as usual, and I was able to tune out. I spent my entire time getting sunburned just a little bit. Got a farmer's tan, which I'm proud of. I got my hands covered in sawdust and splinters, which is a great way to spend the weekend, and it is far superior to being on Twitter arguing with retards, which is not a good place to go. But I did jump into a space. We did talk about this airman. We covered it long form last week, and I'm going to cover a little bit more today. We're going to start off with the story of this Florida airman, this guy from AFSOC, the Air Force Special Operations Command, and some more information that just came out about it. We're going to cover down on people that have to pander for Biden because Biden can't pander for himself. Although when he tries, it's out there. It's pretty awful. We're going to talk about Michael Cohen and how he may have just destroyed himself. And that case is going to be it's going to be interesting to see whether the jurors in New York can say things fairly. We got a little bit of foreign news that happened as well. So we'll cover all of this stuff. We got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of information to cover on, as you can imagine, after a couple of days. Before we do that, let's get started with the thanks to my friends over at Catholic Vote. Also, tons of good information in the Loop this morning. If you guys are not getting Catholic Vote's Loop, you are missing out on probably the best 3 to 4 minutes, maybe three minutes or so email that you can get every single morning. It comes in before the sun at my house, catholicvote.org. Sign up for the Loop. And you'll also notice that if you're watching us anywhere else, there is a link in the description. If you're watching us on Rumble, you'll see a link to the Rumble channel for Catholic Vote. Make sure you're following them as well. We're putting out content there, we being me and the production team over there. We do these sort of shorter podcasts. They're 8 to 12 minutes long on salient topics based on our values. The Catholic Vote is the #1 Catholic organization for faith, family, and freedom. That doesn't mean you have to be Catholic to appreciate them. I just went on a Presbyterian podcast the other day, and they told me that I am their favorite Catholic. So many of you guys don't have to be Catholic. You know, this is not what we're trying to shove down your throat. We're just saying that there are some reasons that Catholics are in the fight right now. And a lot of it is because they're being targeted and because there's fake Catholics all over the place, like a Joe Biden type. Yes, there are fake Catholics, Nancy Pelosi's, and so on. And so Catholics do need to restore some balance to the force here. All right. Let's get into it. Let's get started right away. There was a great video. I don't know if we should cover. Yeah, let's do the story first. The story is that this woman who's a former politician out of Missouri, Claire McCaskill. She's fairly awful. She claims that a fellow grocery shopper ran up and told her to stop Trump from returning to the White House. We actually have the video of that, so we might as well play her claims. I don't know, why do they always have those same glasses? Those are Rosie O'Donnell glasses, are they not? She looked really familiar. She actually kind of looks like my father-in-law's girlfriend. They kind of have, these liberal women kind of have this look, do they not? It's very specific. And I don't know, the eyeglasses are part of it. There was another viral video from one of the Kansas City Chiefs? Man, it must be a Monday. Kansas City Chiefs cheerleaders who put on a fake pair of glasses to look just like this. And then she went on and she was very upset about the fact that Harrison Butker was making just simple statements of Catholic faith to a Catholic university. The glasses, they're part of the uniform of crazy. Anyway, here we go. Here's Claire in her own words, and then we'll cover down on why that's a little silly.
I am still at the point when I walk through the grocery store, people come up to me and grab my hand and say, we're going to be okay, aren't we? He won't win, will he? They won't let him back in the Oval Office, will they? So I do think there is a level of panic out there because some people who look at all the facts and circumstances go, wait a minute, how could this be tied? Right? How could this be tied after everything that has occurred?
How could it be tied? It could be tied because he's a terrible candidate, because Joe Biden is barely sentient and continues to lie. And people are kind of picking up on it, that if he lies about small things, he'll lie about big things. If he lies about what the economy is doing and he lies about how he grew up and about what he's been doing and how confused he is, then it's not going to be surprising that he doesn't have the faith of those that are even supposed to be on his side. There were silent protests when he went out and spoke. He spoke at a couple of college graduations. He went out and gave some like black-friendly speeches. This was something I thought was really interesting. Just this woman talking about someone stopping her at the grocery store. I don't know how many of you guys call it the grocery store, but I don't. You know, we live in Texas. We go to H-E-B. We call it H-E-B. You wouldn't say, I went to the grocery store. Some do, but not people that are from places like Missouri, not people that actually go to them. You got to go to a specific grocery store, right? So this is why I think she's full of it. She released her tax returns. This is an article coming from the AP, okay, folks? From the AP, 2018, rather. In 2018, she released her tax returns because she was running for office. She ended up losing to Josh Hawley. She filed separately from her husband since they met, and they will not be releasing his returns. Apparently, he's very, very wealthy. And they estimate her net worth at $26.9 million. Now, that seems like the lowest estimate that I could find. I was scouring the web this morning to find out how wealthy this woman is. She was ranked as the 24th wealthiest member of Congress. Most people estimate her net worth at about $60 million. So you think she's like rolling around at the grocery store? Is she popping in, mingling with the commoners? Or is she having somebody else get her groceries and bring them? And that's why she doesn't know the name of the grocery store she goes to. These should always have a follow-up question. You know, like, let people make any claim they want. I just saw one of you guys, Censored McGurran, just said, I go to the Piggly Wiggly. That's right. Right? If you live in Florida, you go to Publix. If you live in the upper Midwest, you go to Piggly Wiggly. Like, everybody knows the name of their grocery store except people that don't go to a grocery store. I don't even go to the grocery store very often. That's my wife's gig. She loves grocery stores. And it used to be a Whole Foods, and then they were kind of retarded, and so we kind of stopped doing that. Anyway, the point of it is she probably has people shopping for her. Look, I don't begrudge people having a personal shopper. I don't begrudge people going and doing tasks that they don't want to do. If you have the money to afford it and that's what you want to do, welcome to America. No big deal. No big deal at all. But if you're making a claim out on a campaign trail on behalf of a guy that lies all the time, and you do it in a way that's probably a lie. Oh my God, you guys are all putting all your grocery stores in there. Snicks and Dykesburg. Is that Dyersburg's? Winn-Dixie? Yes, of course. Sam's Club, Costco, like, you name the place you're going, because there's a lot of choices out there in the world. Albertsons, Safeway, you know. In fact, some of the great comedy, Trader Joe's, right? Like, there's a million of these places you go to. You go to the thing because it says a little bit about what kind of person you are. Some people, I talked to Brianna Morello the other day. This is a total aside, but she was saying something. I mentioned something about Walmart because, yeah, like me, Steve Friend, Garrett, like, we all shop at Walmart. We're regular people. And there's something Giant, Sprouts, and Aldi's. Garrett always says Aldi's, by the way, if you guys want to know what kind of guy Garrett is. And the funniest thing to me, by the way, if you guys are not seeing, hold on, we should just throw this on there. The chat is just going nuts with all the type of grocery stores you guys go to. I got to stop. If I look over there, I'm going to be totally distracted. The fact of the matter is You made me lose my complete train of thought because it's unlimited grocery stores, Wegmans. Yeah, everybody kind of identifies with the way that they shop, do they not? Listen, Brianna Morello was telling me, that's what she was saying. She said, I don't do Walmart. I don't do Walmart. I do Target. I'm a Target kind of girl. It's like, yeah, actually, we're going to talk about a trans story because that's in my head. I associate certain things with certain types of people. There's crunchy stores like Natural Grocer. You're like, you're probably going to smell some patchouli in there. Listen, this lady doesn't go to the grocery store. Let's just go with that. Let's just leave it at that. Before we get deeper into the weeds, I wanted to actually cover this first, and I forgot. I wanted to tell you that the story about that Florida airman, it's always was going to have more information come out, and more information has come out. I actually put this right up front of my notes here. The girlfriend of the U.S. airman, this AFSOC guy named Roger Fortson, claims that he was on a video call with her. This is the girlfriend speaking out. She didn't get named. She was afraid of people like speaking out and being angry with her, or that she might have some issues with law enforcement. But apparently was on a video call with the guy just before he was killed. And I have a couple of little pieces on here. Number one, she said they had a long distance relationship, that they regularly talked on the phone and over video calls. That is a staple of the military relationship, that he was at his home playing video games and talking to me like any other day. That's what was going on. And anybody who's ever been around video game type people know that some of these guys get really animated. And so the sound of a slap, or people getting, verbally, heated, or if they're on a chat of some kind, there's all kinds of stupid things that get said on video game chats when they're streamed across servers and you're interactive. That's not domestic violence, but I can imagine how it might sound like that. She just said, they have a routine that every day he basically finishes work and he comes home and he gets on and, this is a classic airman routine. I saw this over and over again. Guys his age would go home, and if they weren't doing, something scandalous, then they were sitting at home playing video games, talking to the girlfriend, trying to figure out when they were going to get together again. And just having somebody that was outside of the military to speak to, it's really, really important. It's important to have that sounding board that's outside of the world that you live in, because the military is kind of an isolating bubble when you're in it, especially when you're an enlisted guy. So she said he was either laying down or playing video games, and they'd FaceTime until she had to go to work. That was their same thing every day. He never changed it up. This is a pretty specific thing. Look, now she may be trying to angle to get in good with the family, and that she's part of the payout, because there should be some kind of payout for what happened. But it's really possible that this is the real story, because this sounds like the kind of story that would happen. She said that the couple has been dating since October, and that she was in love at first sight. They were both attending a birthday party in Atlanta. They bonded instantly, and said that their relationship was really honest and peaceful. And that's the story that, there's a picture of him out there with his sister. I just wanted to say that just because this law enforcement shooting is probably going to come out as justified, and I want you guys to prepare yourselves mentally for that, there's a likely possibility that there will be a justification that he was able to articulate an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury. And at the same time, this should never have happened. And it doesn't matter the color of the skins that's involved. But what I do think is very interesting is that you've got the Antifa types and the Black Lives Matter folks, and they tore up cities all over this country in 2020 over things that were fake. And some of it was because of social media censorship, where we were seeing small clips and edited videos and not the entire context. When you see the entire context of what happened with George Floyd, it's very hard for you to think that these officers were not reasonable. To me, you can drop a knee on somebody. You can hold somebody down, especially when they're telling you they can't breathe when they're walking around. As a medic, I used to deal with this all the time. We used to have this classic symptom, and I was taught this in med school, or medical school actually, what do you call it? P school, paramedic school. They talk about this symptom that's known as chicken breathe. You guys ever heard this? Chicken breathe? You're thinking feathers. What is a chicken breathe? Chicken breathe is when you go into a Hispanic neighborhood and some dude runs out to you and starts screaming at you, chicken breathe, man, chicken breathe. And you're like, okay, so we have a respiratory problem. And you go in and there's some woman that's hyperventilating. It's very, very common. It's like so common that it actually gets taught in paramedic schools across the country, especially taught in the military. But chicken breathe is one of those things. And when you say it to anybody that works in the emergency medical field, they know exactly what you're talking about. Chicken breathe is a regular thing. It's because people lose their mind. And then you'll also find the same people are smokers, and they're living in really bad ventilated areas. Look, if you can breathe, if you're yelling at me, I know you can breathe. You're passing air. It's the reason that they teach you not to go for people that are screaming at the top of their lungs in a car accident first. You go to the silent ones. You go to the silent ones because they're the ones that are possibly having a respiratory, and that's a life threat. George Floyd was saying, I can't breathe. If you're telling me you can't breathe, it means you can breathe, at least while you're telling me. Now, when you stop telling me that becomes really interesting. In any case, it's very interesting that this was the situation. We saw these places torn up without really a full context. And in the meantime, you've got this guy shot for just owning a gun and carrying a gun and responding. And just think about it. He's 23 years old. You ever see 23-year-olds on a FaceTime call without their earbuds on, their AirPods or whatever they're called? They're always wearing them. You think that guy heard what was going on? I also have covered this long form, but I just want to say it one more time. The change in tactics that deputy engaged in, from the knock where he's gentle, then he gets out of the way. You could almost see him change from a knock and talk sort of civilian contact, voluntary interview contact, to a tactical experience because he moves off to the right. Then he bangs on the door really hard, and he does what I would call a knock and announce type behavior, even though he doesn't have legal process. All that's bad. We just need to keep following this story, but don't be surprised when there's no criminal proceedings brought against this cop. I think there'll be a huge settlement because this is just, it's awful and it's sad. All right, so we've talked about liars. We've talked about nonsense. Let's talk about something that means a lot to those of us who are in the military as well. This is a very interesting little piece that is going on. It's flying around in the world right now. I think this is ABC News talking about the upside down flag photo from the Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's house. It's raising concerns per Senator Dick Durbin, who's not a very honest operator, and he's called him to recuse himself from any election related cases from 2020. They think this is a disqualifier. What you're seeing is a picture from the New York Times, and I don't think I actually snapped the New York Times, but I've got that article up as well. You're seeing a picture from his home, and that's a classic sort of, DMV area. That's DC, Maryland, Virginia. All the houses kind of look like that. They all got siding. And this is a picture, apparently, per the New York Times, from January 17th. So about 11 days after, just about 2 weeks after January 6, 2021, 3 days before the inauguration of Biden, which was on January 20th, you've got this inverted flag. It's the flag being flown upside down at the Alito residence. Now, they're making this to be some sort of a scandal. But how many of your neighbors have put that up? In fact, I've done interviews with cops that didn't know what this meant. I've had people that are veterans call and ask, to have a neighbor checked on, because if you see a flag flying upside down, it has a very specific meaning. Now, the interesting thing is that the New York Times claims that it was a symbol of stop the steal. That's the article. That's what this outrage is all about. And so you've got articles from the 16th and a little bit of last week talking about how they've flown the flag upside down. This is a symbol of the extremist party the Trump supporters have adopted, called Stop the Steal. And so there's the New York Times headline at Justice Alito's house: a Stop the Steal symbol on display, upside down flag. That's not what that means, folks. There's a really concrete and specific meaning of the upside down flag. What you're seeing in the bottom right-hand corner, for those of you that are listening and are not watching on our Rumble channel, you're seeing a movie poster for a movie called The Last Castle, which I have recommended here before. If you want to see a fantastic patriotic movie, a really, really good story told by two master actors, I think. It's by Robert Redford and James Gandolfini. They do an absolutely fantastic job of what real leadership and what real command looks like. Real command and real leadership happen whether or not you have the title. It's the story of Robert Redford. He's a general. He's done something. We kind of learn about it as the movie goes on. And it just tells you that he's a man of honor and he's serving time in a military prison that is run by a colonel, James Gandolfini. Now, when you go to prison, you lose your military rank, but that doesn't stop you from being somebody who has bearing and a command presence, which Robert Redford exemplifies in this movie. Now, part of the crux of the issue here is whether or not they can get this evil, tyrannical colonel that's running the prison shut down. And so there's a plan, and I'm not going to give all of it away because if you haven't seen it, it's an old movie. It came out in 2001. But it's an old movie that tells you the story of their attempt to raise the flag. And if they can raise the flag upside down, it shows this. This is actually codified. It's not a stop the steal. This is something that's built into the United States Code. The Flag Code, which is 4 U.S.C. Section 8, respect for the flag. I'm going to read it to you verbatim. There's no other way to say this. It's done as a very specific signal. So the flag code starts with this preface: no disrespect shall be shown to the flag of the United States of America. The flag should not be dipped to any person or thing. Regimental colors, state flags, and organizational or institutional flags are to be dipped as a mark of honor. But not the U.S. flag. The U.S. flag must fly high and proud. That is the way that it is written, per the U.S. flag code. Again, that's 4 USC Section 8. But Section A, the first piece of it, tells you the flag should never be displayed with the Union down. That's going to be the field with the blue stars, or the blue field with the white stars, rather. The Union should never be shown down, except as a signal of dire distress in instances of extreme danger to life or property. It's a statement that's being made at the Alito House that is well within the First Amendment, and it is quite normal to actually do such things when you believe that we are in a state of extreme emergency, dire stress, or danger. What do they say again? Instances of extreme danger to life or property. The statement that is being made with that upside down flag is that a Biden presidency will be an extreme danger to life or property. Both of those things turn out to be pretty true, don't they? We've seen our property devalued. We've seen the ability to achieve the American dream drop. We've seen interest rates quadruple since Donald Trump was in office. That's extreme danger to property, is it not? There are people that can no longer achieve those things. And danger to life. The man has basically, through poor leadership and his inability to step up and do the job that the American president is supposed to do, he's endangered life. And American lives too. It's not a good sign. And it is a reason that we've adopted something very similar. I'm going to show you, since we might as well. This is my friends over at Patriot Coolers. We're going to actually segue this. I actually finally got this thing. Not finally. It only took a couple days. But look, this is the real deal. This is the, over here is the representation from their website. And here's what it came out looking like. It's awesome. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code Kyle, KYLE, will get you 10% off. There you go. Look, right next to each other. The representation is the thing. This is etched in with a laser etcher over the top of the enamel finish. Really, really nice product. It's a screw-on lid. They've been playing back and forth with whether it was going to be a press-fit lid with just a gasket or whether it's screwed on. This one is screwed on. If you guys are interested in getting your own Patriot Cooler and you want to customize it, simply go below the add to cart. There's a section that says customize. There's an entire section for stock images. Scroll down to the suspendables and you'll find multiple images. You can stack them or you can have just a full thing. But you'll notice on the screen right here, right? What do you have on the screen? It's our flag, the suspendables flag. It's the badge is upside down and so is the flag upside down. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code Kyle, KYLE, 10% off, $50 or more, free shipping, all that stuff. Get yourself a secondary lid too. They make two types of lids. One lid is the screw on top. The other lid is it's a pop out. They call it the spill resistant. You can pop it out and put a straw in there, like one of those big silicone straws. That's what I do. If you're somebody that has like a smoothie, or if you got some kind of a shake that you do for your nutrition supplements and stuff like that in the morning, check out these. The 32 ounce is a great size if you're the kind of guy like me, like that's your only meal. But man, the flag is upside down. There's a lot of us that know that. The badge is upside down. We're rolling the suspendables badge. You see it on my shirt here. It's a symbol and it means something. It means this country is in a state of distress. It means that we are looking at extreme danger to life or property. We have the same feeling about the FBI. The suspendables have basically branded it that way. And those of you who know what these guys are about know that that's exactly what's going on here. All right, let's talk about this. We talked a whole episode about lies and damned lies and statistics. This sort of Mark Twain sense. Everybody's covering a little bit more on the hush money trial, but I noticed that there's a decided difference. It is lower on the threshold. It is not front and center on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC. Why is that? Why are they have less and less of it? They're starting to realize that even a New York jury may not be able to convict a Donald Trump. So they have an entire, and it's because their case is so weak. Now, as we've talked about here before, they're talking about hush money. Like this is all about hush money. And yet, it's not about hush money. It's about whether or not they can say that there were falsified business records about hush money. Hush money is just the sexy thing to lead with it. There's this great cartoon that I saw over on True Social. And it's a sketch of the judge, and it says, "You will have honor and dignity and respect this courthouse." And then the second frame is, "Now bring out the porn star," because this is a joke. This is a joke of a process. It's absurd. I can imagine how frustrated Donald Trump is sitting there every day dealing with it. But they've just realized that they may not be able to get the thing they want. So they're talking about possible outcomes over at ABC. And the possible outcomes, the first one, could Trump be convicted? And the answer is, it's possible. We're talking about a New York jury. The second thing is a directed verdict, which is to say that the defense would have the opportunity to make a motion saying, "Judge, they have not proven their case. We would like you to direct it," and say, "We don't even send it to a jury. You simply should be able to provide that there's no ability to convict on this." So that's one possibility. So the top three things they state is possibly a conviction, which they have it in the form of a question, a directed verdict, which they think is a possibility that there will be a motion for it. And even if the judge denies it up front, they can make their closing arguments and then they can make another motion for it. And that's the sort of indication. That's their second choice. And the third one is a mistrial. And I thought this was very fun because very specifically, this expert they have that they're quoted is concerned about the mistrial. He says, "I'm curious to see for how long the jury is out. It's always an interesting thing to see, particularly if they're having trouble reaching a decision." This is literally what a mistrial or a hung jury would be. And then the judge will have to decide if there's been enough time, that the jury's had enough time to deliberate, that they can declare a mistrial and a hung jury. I'm concerned about the hung jury in this case. Why? Why are you concerned at all? If you're an expert, you should just be talking about the things that are going on, because all these people are advocates, as you guys can probably tell. That's why you're being quoted at ABC. One of the jurors who made it onto the jury said he got his news from two different sources, one of which being Trump's Truth Social. So a man that's supposed to be judged by a jury of his peers, their big problem in this particular thing, and by the way, they buried this little piece of the story. The big problem they have is that one juror has been looking at Truth Social. How do we have a jury of the peers of a Donald Trump? First of all, who are the peers of Donald Trump? I don't know. Shouldn't it be like New York business people that have money? You know? Should it be politicians that have faced political prosecutions? Like, I don't even know how we've decided that we've picked these jury of our peers and that the state should be able to pick people and get rid of people that they think would be too favorable to the defendant. It's really bizarre. The story of Dexter Taylor has the same thing. He said every strong black male that they had on the jury was thrown out. He wanted firefighters and cops, like black firefighters and cops, to be the people in the jury that listened to what he argued. And you can't have them because the state is the one that will throw them out. The fact that we have this adversarial system, that is the way our system is set up, but we have gone so far from the concept of a jury of our peers. And as I said, I don't know what a jury of Trump's peers look like, but somebody reading Truth Social being a real problem for your legal expert. I mean, we know what the mainstream left thinks, but it's pretty incredible. They also said that, of course, if he's convicted, that there's a possible appeal. It's unlikely that he would even go to jail for it, that they would most likely not expedite the trial again or the appeal if he's not put in jail right away. If they give him like sort of extended release and that they do a release pending appeal, then it's unlikely that he would get jail time. They also said for first-time offenders like Donald Trump. I just want to grab my face on this stuff. He's never been convicted, so he's not an offender. So hypothetically, if he were convicted is what they should say, but they don't say that. Of course not. What's also really interesting, I thought, was this little bit from CNN. And that's, I think, where I want to go with this next. This was always about credibility. And the credibility is a major problem. You brought on a porn star, a woman who has sex on camera for money, talking about how embarrassed she was about having sex theoretically with Donald Trump. I don't know why. These are the same kind of people that get railed by like Ron Jeremy's. So this is nothing new to them, them being porn stars, if you can talk about them as a group. But this opinion piece written by this guy named Richard Gallant Gallant over at CNN was very interesting to me. And it's a longer piece, but I want to get into this here. They're showing this little blip about the handwritten notes. And essentially, this is the centerpiece of the argument, is that these handwritten notes basically are the quote-unquote proof. They're the proof that these business records were fudged and that the $130,000 that was paid out was specifically for Stormy Daniels. It's like handwritten note. I mean, what are they? The FBI? Handwritten notes are the most unreliable thing that you'll ever find. Even contemporaneous notes. Even if you've gone through, like how many of you have sit down? I would encourage you, listen to this entire podcast and then go jot down what you think the stories were at the end of it. Knowing that we're like from here on out, starting at the 30-minute mark, just do the last 30 minutes. Write down notes, just bullet points of what you think the major points were, and then visit them like a week later and see if you can actually say what they were. It's the reason why I never liked relying on handwritten notes, and I don't do it. One, they're admissible in court, and they oftentimes show that you misheard things. Whatever lens you brought to the story, that's your problem. It doesn't mean that's what happened. The best thing to do is have an actual recording. I don't have my recorder sitting on the desk. I think it's over on the charger. A recorder. A digital recorder, they're inexpensive. They're $50 to $100. We know that Michael Cohen had them. You just record them. You put the recording down. You say, hey, for my protection and for yours, I'm going to record this interview. I'm going to record this conversation. And then you have a perfect little record of what happened on that day. It's digital. File storage is very cheap. You can put every single digital recording you have on a tiny little, like a little SD card at this point. You can put gigabytes on them. So what on earth are we talking about? The best thing about it is that the entire premise that the defense has brought up is that Michael Cohen is a liar, that he's convicted of lying, that he's a crappy attorney. He's an attorney that was actually so dishonest, he was actually doing audio tapes, recordings of his own client, which seems pretty problematic for a lot of these ethics. He's lied under oath, and they've pointed this stuff out. And then they had this brilliant little moment where he's been basically saying that the document that you're seeing in front of you was all set up with this phone call that took place, and he's very specific about a phone call. It was October 24th, 2016, and apparently it took place at like 8:02. He was uniquely specific about this particular phone call. And this particular phone call supposedly was when it was all put together. The problem is the defense has just introduced a fair number of text messages showing the setup before the phone call and after the phone call. And that phone call was not about hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Apparently, it was about Michael Cohen complaining to Trump's body man, a guy named Keith Schiller, that he had a 14-year-old girl harassing him with phone calls and text messages. That's the kind of, like, do you know how many weird phone calls that I get from either reporters or like non-friendlies or just weirdos, and you just block them. It's really easy. But he was very upset about this, and so that's what this particular phone call was about. And it was read aloud, the transcripts of those particular text messages. And here's Anderson Cooper talking about this is a credibility problem. Like if Anderson Cooper, CNN, I mean, he's very, very honest, isn't he now? But he was a VJ back in the day, wasn't he? Like, how did this guy end up? I don't know. Anyway, people change jobs. He's a face of credibility. Even he is concerned about the credibility, at least in this instance, of what Michael Cohen, like he's making up as he go along. I'm going to let him say it in his own words. Here we go.
Having just witnessed that piece of cross-examination, do you have doubts that conversation happened the way Michael Cohen testified on his direct examination, that he called Trump and Schiller?
I think it's absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's devastating, for Michael Cohen's credibility on this, in this one particular topic, whether it's, he just didn't, it's hard to, I don't know. Yes, I think if I was a juror in this case, watching that, I would think this guy's making this up as he's going along, or he's making this particular story up. Todd Blanche was pointing out, you were testifying just on Tuesday in this court, and all morning long he's been pointing out, inconsistencies in Michael Cohen's testimony.
I'm going to cut away from it. By the way, if you're not watching us on Rumble, join us on rumble.com. The link's usually in the show description. Otherwise, you just go to rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. It'll flash on the screen here in just a second. You guys can subscribe there. You can hit the like button, and we appreciate it if you do. If you like what you're hearing, let me throw this out there. That's Anderson Cooper, a VJ, a guy who's been on television and speaks for a living and has for decades at this point. He's tongue-tied. He's struggling to figure out how to say the thing that is obviously going to be true and is proper analysis without saying that this case is complete garbage, because that's obviously not the way that CNN wants to present it. So he said, this is devastating to Michael Cohen's credibility, at least in this case, at least in this one particular instance. No, it's devastating to Michael Cohen's credibility, full stop. I need to hydrate. I need to just process how funny it is that CNN is falling all over themselves to try to say things and be news, because that's what they want to be, the most trusted name in news, do they not? And yet, How do you say that without just honestly telling people that this is complete and utter garbage? It's a farce. So even funnier, and I'm not sure if I put let me see if I grab this the screenshot as well. I did not. I have a piece from the Washington Post, and I'll just read it to you. Everybody covered this differently. The Washington Post did a piece that said, did Trump's lawyers catch Michael Cohen in a lie? Let's take a look. The answer, spoiler alert, is yes. That's a lie. If you said, on this day, I had a phone call, and this phone call was about this, and it's only based on my personal experience, I'm the only one who knows about it. And they go, well, there was another person on that phone call. We talked to them. And by the way, and like, here's the text messages that set it up. And you were really, really worried about a 14-year-old girl texting you and calling you and harassing you. And he's like, well, maybe we talked about that too, but I think we could talk about two things. It was a short phone call. And the other side of it, you understand the other side of it is like open to discovery as well. I can't believe they brought this guy up and that they let him. Here's the problem. If you're a liar and you're used to lying, then you say things that are lies and you are already discredited. This is why you don't want to have a law enforcement officer who has giglio material as somebody on the stand, because they'll point out that you're a liar. Listen, one of the things that I did, this is a complete aside, but it's worth noting. In fact, I will recommend this to anybody that has to deal with with federal prosecution from the FBI, especially if there's ever a surveillance piece in it, having been a guy on the surveillance. The problem is, if you pulled the timesheets, this is one of my whistleblowing activities, by the way, and I don't think I've ever talked about it that publicly, but if you pulled the timesheets from an FBI surveillance team, our system, the FBI system, was not set up such that you could put in 7 days of work if you worked 7 days in a row. If I worked Monday through Sunday, which I did all the time, when we were on deployments, I did that at least 20 times, and we did it also domestically. So I probably have 40 instances in a period of 3 years where we worked Sunday to Sunday for 2 weeks in a row, let's say. What the FBI would like to do is not pay you for overtime. I calculate they owed me at least $50,000 in back overtime from these kind of things. They won't pay you overtime. What they want to do is they want to say, well, you worked on a Saturday and a Sunday. We're going to give you a Monday and a Tuesday off on some other time. But the issue is this. When you do a timesheet as a federal employee, there's an actual click on there that says, I swear to test that this stuff is true to the best of my knowledge. If you swear and attest to something that is false, like I didn't work on this Saturday and Sunday when I did, the problem is that the FBI, as we talked about paperwork and handwriting, generates these logs. They're called surveillance logs for every single case that you're working on that day. Fill in the blank team. These are the members of the team. These are the observations that were done. They were done at this address. This was the case number that we were assigned to, the same way that an attorney might bill it. So I might have surveillance observations that I have sworn in a test are true on a Saturday when I've also sworn in a test that I didn't work on that Saturday. I know those exist because I couldn't do it any other way. That was the only way you were going to get your paycheck. And the FBI wouldn't fix it. I brought that to the attention of the Office of General Counsel. One, because they owe me money. That was like the secondary thing. The primary thing is this. If any enterprising attorney were able to go and pull that information, they would be able to say, listen, Mr. Seraphin, it says that you observed my client involved in a hand-to-hand transaction at a gas pump that you, based on your training and your experience, believe was a drug transaction. It's like, that's correct. You also swore to test on a federal form that you were not working on that day. When were you lying? When you filled out your timesheet or when you said you observed my client doing this illegal activity? And I'd be like, oh, I was lying on my timesheet. And they're like, cool. What other things do you lie about? You're destroyed. You're absolutely destroyed. Because you were involved in lying. And it's an institutional policy. When you bring liars up on the stand, you are subject to seeing people who lie for a living. Now, in my case, we were stuck doing this. It was the only way we were getting paid. But I brought to the attention of those who were in charge. Nothing happened about it, by the way. That's still ongoing. If you're involved in any priority counterterrorism issue, you're going to see that there are lies and inconsistencies. And I don't know that anybody goes and finds them, but it's bizarre. And anyway, talking about lying, let's get into some more of them. And there's a bunch of this stuff. Actually, let me just break over here and say thanks to my buddies at Mad Hat Jerky. If you guys want, I actually killed the bag of black truffle while doing my weekend projects. I'm down to 2 more bags. I'm going to have to reorder pretty soon. I got about half of this one left. This is the original gourmet flank, USDA prime jerky. If you guys want the best jerky that's out there, I was just watching the guys from Iraq Veteran 8888 talking about going to gun shows and getting beef jerky. The best beef jerky is at madhatjerky.com/Kyle. I say that wholeheartedly. I gave some to my wife, not into it. She's not a jerky person, and she was like, yeah, I'll have more of that. I'll take some downstairs with me. 20% off if you use promo code Kyle, K-Y-L-E. If you go to matthatjerky.com/Kyle, it should tag your order automatically. The teriyaki is good. It's a little sweet for my taste. The Punjabi is also a little sweet and fiery. Garrett said it was outstanding. Anybody who's tried it has reached out to me and told me they really liked it. So I don't think I'm just making this thing up when I tell you that it is some of the best jerky that I've ever had. matthatjerky.com/Kyle, K-Y-L-E, saves you 20%. We get tagged on the sale, so that's cool too. But yeah, check it out. You guys won't be disappointed. It's a great story. It's a great story of an 11-year-old kid starting a business. Now he's 18 and employs 20 people. That is the American dream, even in Biden's economy. Let's start with some real fun lies. We just talked about them a second ago. The problem with liars. The problem with liars is we have someone sitting in the White House that is a liar. There's no other way around it. Has this guy ever been successful? I mean, it must have been successful when he was younger, when he would go out there and do the I'm Joe Biden and fill in the blank. And then his follow-up is like, I'm Jill's husband, or I'm Joe Biden and I'm Jill's husband, or, I'm Joe Biden and I work for Kamala Harris. Blah. It's so gross. It's so lamely pandering. Biden was involved in a couple of pandering speeches where he made dubious claims. Here's one of the dubious claims. We'll play a couple of them because they're kind of fun. Might as well. You guys should at least know that what the reason why this race is not close at the moment, or why it's stagnant and why the left is freaking out, is because of this stuff.
My name's Joe Biden, and I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. Matter of fact, the first organization I ever joined was the NAACP. Didn't get to vote till you were 21 in those days, but I got involved in civil rights when I was 15.
Yeah, fact check, probably not true. I don't know. Like, he's such a strange dude. He's having a problem. That's why he's out doing these battleground state, courting black voters is what they claim. He needs the black vote, but he's a liar. He keeps lying about stuff. So he's got to tell them that he's been a member of the NAACP since before he was born. It was the first organization he ever joined. I would love to find out if he ever claimed that he was in like a Cub Scouts or anything like that, because I guarantee you, like, the first organization you joined was not the NAACP. We'll just categorically say that there's no chance. What's funny is when he actually has an applause break, we'll have another one of those where he says an applause break line and people cheer, but then he carries on like, no, not a joke. It's like, dude, you got the laugh, you got the applause, you got whatever you were looking for. He's not even aware of what he's doing at this point. Anyway, this is the fear. This is the reason why ABC is reporting here that he's out there doing these battleground states. This is CBS that you're seeing up there. Biden courts battleground state black voters with two big speeches. The speeches were pretty weak. One of them was in Detroit at the NAACP. I got another fun clip about that. Apparently, Joe Biden doesn't even know when the pandemic of 2020 and all that nonsense happened. He believes he was still in office. The man is confused and he's weak when he puts on his spikes and goes out on the political trail. He skips words all the time. And he makes claims that are just bizarre. Like, again, the NAACP thing. How about this one? Apparently, Barack Obama told him to go fix Detroit during the pandemic. It's like a smoothie of stuff that's just rolling around in his brain. They're facts, but they are unrelated to time. They're temporally detached. And this picture here, I'm sorry, I've got this picture of him on the screen where he's walking across. He's always holding his hands really weirdly when he walks across like the tarmac. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There it is. There is him doing that CNN town hall where he clenched up and he went full Cornholio. I cannot see Joe Biden without seeing Cornholio at this point. There's some really funny dubs of Beavis and Butthead. If you guys aren't familiar with the famous Beavis and Butthead cartoons, I grew up watching some of those, and I never really liked them, but they have more commentary than I ever thought. Anyway, you guys are seeing the classic meme of Cornholio needing TP for his butthole, and then also there's Joe Biden doing the same exact thing. You can't unsee it once you've seen it, in the same way that you can't unsee Karine Jean-Pierre as Sideshow Bob. Once you've seen it, it's locked in forever. Here he is saying that he was saving Detroit from the pandemic. I don't know what that means.
And when I was vice president, things were kind of bad during the pandemic. And what happened was Barack said to me, go to Detroit and help fix it. Well, poor mayor, he spent more time with me than he ever thought he was going to have to.
Poor mayor. He doesn't even know the guy's name. He's just like, this guy. And the mayor's probably going like, dude, that was in 2013. I don't know what you're talking about. There was no pandemic. What was it? Bird flu, swine flu. It's so weird. It's really weird. Like I said, unlimited lies, unlimited debunked things. This is what he's running his campaign on. This pending debate should be very interesting. It should be very fun to watch. All this stuff's been debunked in public. The good men and women on both sides, BS about the Nazis and all this kind of thing. The book banning, like everything he says is just nonsensical. This is another good one. He's making up the lie about how they changed the election law. Basically, you're not allowed to give gifts out to people in line if you're representing a political campaign. You know, it's called electioneering. It's a problem. You're not supposed to go out there and give people walking around money or pocket money or any other sort of bribe, gift, or thing of value. And so they've said that you can't, go out and distribute water if you're representing a political campaign. If you want to just go out and be a person who's wearing like non-political stuff and hand out, and not give a flyer and not represent, with a hat or something that you're advertising, you can go and give water bottles out. But anyway, he's going to make the claim about you can't give water in line because, and listen, he skips words as he tries to get this. He also has a pretty classic thing where he referred to the so-called insurrectionists, but he calls them erectionists because he's just fallen all over himself. Here's another good example of it.
Today in Georgia, they won't allow water to be available to you while you wait in line to vote in an election. What in the hell's that all about? I'm serious. Think about it.
So you heard him. He got the applause, some of the applause. People were like, yeah, that's Georgia, it's racist or whatever. And then right afterwards, he's out there going like, no, I'm serious. I gotta carry this on. I'm going to say dumb things over and over again. If you saw the one of the most recent Dan Bongino shows showing some of the propaganda they're putting out, it was like 13 jump cuts in less than 30 seconds. They kept cutting because the guy can basically get one take from one sentence at a time before he completely falls apart. So you're out there just going like, come on, man. Come on, man. Isn't that what he says? Isn't that a Joe Biden? It's just weird. A lot of these people are not who they represent themselves to be. At this point, all the veil has slipped off Joe. And so he is exactly who he is. He says racist stuff. He's very confused. He's completely out to lunch. But there was a little thing we did the other day, and I think we played this. What was, it was the congressional chaos, right? We played a little piece of this. It looked like this.
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk. Now, I understand everyone's shit's emotional right now.
Okay, yeah. So the whole Hector Camacho idiocracy that was going on. I found this video over the weekend, and I don't know if it's gotten enough play, but it's from I Am Memes 01. So it's like Declaration of Memes, I think. I may have gotten the name wrong. Or I think it's I meme, therefore I am. So anyway, I am Memes 01 or 06. Great little sort of content follower. This is a great smash up of Jasmine Crockett, and we're getting to some lies. The woman is playing a role like so many of these politicians in the same way that Claire McCaskill is playing a role, that Joe Biden is trying as best he can to play a role. She's pandering, but like, who is she pandering to? This is a mashup of her before she was elected, or when she was elected to Congress, but before she actually got to the House. She's a well-spoken, articulate young lady. She's not the ghetto, trashy, hood rat sort of thing that she's presented herself to be. Now, maybe that always lived underneath her, but she can clean it up anytime she wants. She chooses not to. She puts on this affectation, and that's the belief that people are actually going to resonate with that. Listen to how different she sounds in these jump cuts between what she does in Congress and the way that she did before she got there. These people are actors, and they're mediocre actors at best. She had me convinced, actually, until I saw this. This is actually not surprising, but it is probably a little different than what most of you have seen from her. Make sure I got the right video clip cleared up here. Oh, no. Yeah, well, we'll show you why in a second.
In my mind, I'm thinking, I just got to Austin, and I had to beat 5 people to get here. I don't know about this.
So y'all don't know what white privilege looks like, but I'm gonna show you a little bit of something.
It's a huge responsibility. You know, the congressional seat is over 4 times as large as my House seat.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at, calm down. Calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do.
And I was just starting to get into the rhythm of doing constituent services.
They send them to Texas, they send them to Florida. Every deplorable state that we can think about, they usually coming out of y'all's think tank.
There was someone that talked to me and said, in fact, a former ambassador in the Clinton administration.
Please calm down.
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise and then
You're out of control.
He said, Jasmine, what you have to realize is that if you are really going to make change, it's not going to be in the Texas House. He said, you did a great job playing defense, but you have a chance to play offense.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
I had no idea what you just said.
The management, so to speak, changes. It's not just always one party that has everything. And
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it?
Do you see that? I've heard the argument before that there's this thing called code switching. This is the AOC talks about, like, you got to be one thing around certain people and another thing around others. It's usually like a racist sort of a clown show where they talk about, well, white people won't accept you if you act certain ways. That's the claim. So it's this like it's the internalized racism problem. But she's doing like the opposite of the normal code switch, isn't she? She gets out there in the place where she should be on her best behavior, where she is doing her job, and her job is to play this like ratchet, weave, crappy nails, just Democrat pandering garbage. Isn't that something? Ain't it something that she's out there doing the trashy act when she should be acting classy, and we know she can do better. And that was a little mashup of back and forth. What you kept hearing in the right ear, if you were listening on a speaker that actually kind of cut from one side to the other, you heard right ear, that's Jasmine before going to Congress, the way that she normally would sound, and the way that she would sound when she was probably an attorney, when she was out there trying to do a job of a professional. Now she's an actress. And maybe that is exactly why they've got this big problem on the political left, why they are so scared, because people see through this stuff at some point. And more people are questioning than ever before. They're questioning what Joe Biden was doing in Detroit trying to solve the pandemic or whatever. They just know this stuff is false. They've got a better sense of timing and timelines. And this is why I think this is MSNBC is starting to freak out a little bit.
But despite it all, the state of the race remains stagnant. Biden continues to trail former President Trump in several key battleground states, down by double digits in Nevada and Georgia, states he won in 2020.
The polling is stagnant and it's bad. That was NBC. I'll correct myself real quickly. It's bad, which is why the real story that's going on right now, and I didn't mean to save it for last or so far back in the line here, but the real story is this for me. DHS, this is coming from, who is this coming from? This is ABC reporting. DHS warns of threats to election posed by artificial intelligence. This is a problem of today, not of the future, says one expert. If you guys remember the way that the wild things that happened in post-2018 elections, the way they happened was interference happening at a governmental level and complete cooperation by social media and media companies. There was this push under DHS to create something, by the way, Donald Trump signed into law, what's called CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And like I say, anytime that you use the word security twice, you know it must be important. These people, and according to some of the reporting that I follow, and folks like Tracy Beans, if you're not following them, and Schellenberger and Taibbi were also talking about this stuff during the Twitter files, CISA declared that your mind is part of their mandate. I'm going to say it one more time because it bears repeating. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency declared that your brain, the gray matter, the space between your ears, is part of their infrastructure mandate. How did they do that? They just wrote it up. Like all government agencies, they assumed a certain amount of power. And they did so by claiming that the gray matter, the neurons that fire between your ears in your skull, are part of the cognitive infrastructure of the nation. Cognitive infrastructure is a word that only a government bureaucrat could come up with. Now, they can't regulate what you think, right? For all the much that they would love to do that. They're unable to do that currently. They can't manipulate what you think, but what they can manipulate is what you consume, visually and auditorily. So you can actually influence elections, especially for low information people that are not out there seeking things that are true with a capital T, the actual truth that approximate the closest thing to a platonic ideal of truth. Those people will simply direct that the actual truth that George Floyd had many, many minutes of saying that he couldn't breathe, that he was fighting in the car when nobody was touching him. Those things, they hide that. And they do so by censoring the input. They can't censor what's going on inside the processor, but they can stop the input. And they are going to do that, and they continue to do that. That's why they're going to claim a bigger mandate. Now they're talking about AI. So you've heard about misinformation that's accidentally wrong, and it causes real problems. Disinformation, which is intentionally wrong and causes big problems, allegedly. You're allowed to do both of those things, by the way, in this country under the Constitution. We have a constitutional liberty that says we can. The last one they have is malinformation. And that's things that are true, but they're inconvenient for whatever narrative that's being pushed. I aspire every day to give you malinformation. That is the purpose of this podcast. And if you are watching it and you guys want to support us and you don't have the finances, I get it. Times are tough. Times are tight. Biden administration doing awful things for a lot of things. My friends are out there trying to buy houses that are costing way more than they ought to. All of that stuff, you can share the podcast itself, and that is supporting this, and it's supporting moving malinformation into the public sphere. Things that are inconvenient, but also true. DHS is telling us that they are going to basically start looking at, they're saying the 2024 election cycle progresses. Generative AI tools are likely to provide domestic and foreign threat actors with enhanced opportunities for interference by aggravating emerging events, disrupting election processes, or attacking election infrastructure. You see, they've given themselves reason to talk about it. I want to hone in on these exact words. Domestic and foreign, by the way, domestic, that's us, and foreign threat actors with advanced opportunities. They're worried about threat actors. Do you know what a threat actor is? A threat actor is somebody that fits into the threat landscape. It's government garbage speak under Homeland Security. It's censorship talk that says you're a quote-unquote threat, even though you're not actually breaking any laws. That is how you bring things under your mandate, like cognitive infrastructure. We're worried about threat actors. That's what intelligence agencies do. They're worried about threats. They're not worried about crimes. Threat actors are people that engage in a threat. Nothing about that threat has to be against the law. That doesn't stop them from doing it. DHS is the single biggest liberty, black hole. We don't know what it is that they have the authority to do because it is not listed. I signed a little piece the other day with Agave. I just saw you guys follow the White Rabbit in the chat saying Agave. That's something that we brought out and shared with you guys. This whole concept of being tagged as an anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremist. In the way that I have a Betsy Ross flag. What side is it on? This side. I have a Betsy Ross flag and some pretty old weapons that are sitting out there. Actually, one of them is a replica of an old weapon, and one of them is a legit old weapon from the 1860s. Anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists are not criminals. They're people that are engaging in their own free speech. They have a civil liberty. They are protected. Our founders knew that they were allowed to have these thoughts because they had just finished having such thoughts and overthrowing the British crown. There's a reason why the First Amendment is the most important up front, and it's more important than the second. Self-censorship is the biggest problem, and the government wielding censorship tools coming after you for this whole oh no, it's AI, it's generative threat actors. They want to shut down the biggest tool because I can damage a whole lot more government narrative with this microphone than I can with any of the handguns or rifles that I have in that closet. You can't see, but off camera I have a closet and it's full of them. And we can't handle them because they'll kick us off YouTube. Folks, threat actors are non-criminal, but they do give reasons for investigations that are sometimes able to generate criminal activity. They're able to generate a criminal charge against you because they are going to use national security tools calling you a threat. And once they've done that, they can actually find the crime. This is the message I've been beating since I first went on Dan Bongino's show in September of 2022. The message is this. Our federal government, specifically the FBI, in my experience, but I know DHS has access to these because they don't even have a DIOG. The Domestic Investigations Operations Guide doesn't even govern the DHS. They are outside the law in all this stuff. They are looking for threats to the homeland, whatever the hell that means. And that threat could be you, and it could be me, and it most definitely is me in this case. All right? They are out there looking for threats to homeland, not crimes against the state. The crime is your thought, that cognitive infrastructure. And that's why we have to continue to call these people out. That's why we can fly the flag upside down. It's righteous. It's accurate. We can fly the flag upside down because we are now in a grave peril to life and to property. Extreme and dire emergency. What is it? What number did I have this sitting on? Number 5. There it is again. extreme danger to life or property. We are in that because we have an FBI that carries guns. They are far more dangerous than the CIA. They're far more dangerous than anyone else. They have an authorized law enforcement purpose to look into you when you have done nothing criminal, and they can find things that are criminal. And if they do so, they can come at you. And they can shoot you in the head at 6 a.m. if you're holding a weapon, the same way we heard about this airman. This is not normal. This is not safe. This is not a good time. I don't mean to drop this on you like a Monday, but let's keep our wits about us on this Monday as we think about this stuff. We have to be aware that they're using terms like threat actor because the same way that the government told you that in Iraq we were fighting insurgents. Cat Williams is famous for saying something. You talk about black outreach. Cat Williams was really good at pointing out that the government are a bunch of gangsters, the same way my buddy Kash Patel says it. Kash Patel calls them government gangsters. Yes, what do gangsters do? They say things that are not real. Nobody knows what a threat actor is. So anybody could be a threat actor, but you don't know any threat actors unless you know what that definition is. In the same way, Cat Williams talked about how the government can kill all the insurgents they want. I don't know, a single MF insurgent. So people get on board with it. Well, you and me are the insurgents. We're the insurgents right now with just cutting through the BS and trying to understand what is actually going on. And I'll tell you, guys that worked in intelligence for a very long time, friends like mine of like George Hill, will sit there and tell you that DHS is the single biggest, scariest thing. And where did it come from? It came out of the war on terror, which is when we lost a lot of ground in this country. We were set back at least 20 years by the war on terror because all the things that we are feeling right now were coming to a head in the late 90s. And they got to put the pause button on it and redirect our attention and get us all riled up about something else. And it worked. I want to do, I don't do a lot of foreign news, but I do want to touch on a couple of little things here. Foreign news, because you'll be ignorant if you don't know this. This is just a little quick story out there. The president of Iran, this guy, Ibrahim Raisi, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. He was killed supposedly in what they called a hard landing. A hard landing is when you impact with your helicopter directly into the broadside of a mountain. He was first missing, and they claimed a harmed landing. Then they called it a crash. And then, of course, they were able to articulate that, in fact, he is probably presumed dead at this point. They were unable to find him. Bad weather is to blame, supposedly. A lot of people throwing shade at Israel. No sense knowing. There's no way to prove that happened at this point. There's nothing in the public sphere. Is it possible? Of course. If they were really good, would we ever find out? No. Just so you know, that's how it would work. If you don't, this should be a deniable operation if they were going to do it. But this guy was known as the Butcher of Tehran. By all accounts, not a nice dude. Good riddance and no love lost as he has departed the world. And most likely we won't see any sort of change. The son, who was sort of vying for political leadership of Ayatollah Khomeini, is going to probably step into that round. So they were kind of vying with each other. It's just as likely as not, by the way, that it was something internal, because there's internal politics in Iran as well and people fighting for power. And it's just as likely as not, is what I've been reading, that the Ayatollah's son could have been involved in this, or some faction of the Iranian government that wanted to get rid of him and move in some other folks. So, end of the day, not my business, not a thing that I'm an expert on, not a thing that I really even care about, other than it happened and it does destabilize parts of the world. And when things are being destabilized, oftentimes it's because the United States leadership is at an all-time low. And things are happening that would otherwise not happen. Another little piece of news that I thought was really fun. I was going to show this to you last week, but I saw this is from May 15th. Zelensky apparently is postponing his foreign visits as Ukraine faces new Russian offensive. Apparently, Zelensky is going to have to stick in his country. Do you remember the bullshit that we were being fed about Zelensky running all over the place, and he was like hiding from like Russian death squads, and at any moment he could be killed, and they made him into this like martyr before being a martyr, and then they brought him back into the United States, and suddenly he was able to travel all over the place and have luxurious properties, and his wife's like shopping in Paris, but his country is at war, and everybody's like facing this existential threat, but he's out there like on these like fundraising tours going all around Europe and around the United States. What the F is going on with that guy? I just think it's funny that now suddenly they realize like he probably should stick around the country if his country's at war. Can you imagine if the United States had like a foreign invader had come in, let's say Mexico ran across the Rio Grande and started invading Texas, and Governor Abbott was like, I'm just going to go to India and see what's going on there, see if they want to help us out. I'm going to go to Africa and see if they want to do some fundraising. Maybe we'll go up to Canada and high five Trudeau. Like, it's absurd on its face that the leader of a nation is like running around doing fundraisers and, getting handshakes and wearing his like military bullshit clothing. That's why we made the Zelensky special, by the way, on the merch store. You guys can check that out. We made it because it's such a joke. He's out there begging our country and standing in front of Congress getting like signed flags. Meanwhile, like theoretically, his country is on the brink of being destroyed. It's so nutty. We're living in the dumbest time. All right, last little piece, because I thought this was also very interesting today, and I never want to end it on good news on a Monday. The butchers and liars were murderously long. That's a quote from Jordan Peterson. A new study finds 12-fold higher suicide risk for people who had gender surgery, reporting on Daily Wire by a guy named Zach Jewell. It's a new study called the Cass Report that's gone out there, just basically stating what we all sort of know. They have a pretty good size study. They have 4 different cohorts of people being studied. Cohort 1 was 15.6 million adults who had visited the emergency room, but had never engaged in gender affirming care, which was what the cohort B was. There was also cohort C, which was 142,000 people, adults that had some sort of surgeries that was on their reproductive system, tubal ligations, vasectomies, and so on, but not gender affirming care. And then the 4th group was just a sort of control group. It was people that went to the emergency room that had pharyngitis, so like a sore throat. And so they were it doesn't say how many were in that cohort, but we're talking about millions of people studied, and they looked across it, and you're going to be shocked to find out, I'll tell you, that there's a 12.12-fold higher increased suicide attempt instanced for those who had gender affirming care. It turns out that if you're not dealing with the actual mental issues that are at play, those people still want to kill themselves. There was all kinds of negative things in this. It just absolutely destroys the quote unquote science behind the so-called gender affirming care. Good article over there if you guys want to read it. They have a sound off from Daily Wire's Jordan Peterson, who obviously he's now working over there, but he's blasting them for the whole check out the science. This is coming on the heels of a survey out of Denmark talking about trans identifying people having a 3.5x higher suicide rate, actual rate of suicide, and 7.7 time higher attempt at suicide. These people are not well, and there's nothing good about affirming the falsehoods. It's possibly why people are unable to actually do that with the Joe Biden at this point. I don't know if there's a one-to-one comparison, but when you get lied to, at some point people don't want to be lied to. Most people don't want to be lied to. If you're someone who enjoys other people lying to you, you probably have other issues, and I would not be surprised when you actually get exposed to it. And it's like that jarring experience of reality hitting you against the lie that you've been trying to tell yourself. Suicide sounds like probably a way out of that. You're trapped in a prison of your own mind. And I feel very, very sorry for these people, but they are being sold a lie, and a diabolical lie at that. It goes right back to those glasses and that nutty Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader who was like really mad at Harrigan Butker. By the way, the only thing she needed to do was internalize the message that man said. She'd be infinitely happier. If you guys saw this viral video, you guys know what it is. All right. I got 2 more videos, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Number 1, I just had to show you this because apparently this is how we get a Joe Biden. I have to imagine these are the women out there voting for Joe Biden. Disabuse your neighbors of dumb things that are not true anytime you get a chance, and this is one of those good ones. Make sure your neighbors know. This is a public service announcement. Hamburgers are beef.
So the other day I went to a steakhouse for a friend's birthday, and she ordered a steak, and the waitress goes, "How do you want your cow cooked?" And I'm like, that's a weird way to order it, but whatever. So she asked my friend, "How do you want your cow cooked?" My friend says, "I want it medium rare," or something like that. And so then I wasn't in the mood for a steak. I wanted a hamburger. I'd been craving a hamburger. So I order, the cheeseburger. And she goes, "How do you want your cow cooked?" And I kind of like awkwardly look at my friend because I was like, I feel really embarrassed. Do I point out that it's not cow? Like, hamburger is a pig. Everyone knows ham comes from pig. So I joked back. I was like, well, I want my pig cooked well done. You're not supposed to eat pork like uncooked. Everybody knows that. That's why it's always been super weird to me that people will get like red in the middle on their burgers. And so she looks back at me and she goes, "You mean your cow?" And I'm like, I don't know how to have this conversation right now. Like, I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to educate you kindly. And I was like, "Sure, my cow." But it was so bizarre. I'm like, how do you not know? It's literally in the name. It's a hamburger. There's no hope for the world.
There is no hope for the world if that's the case. Remember, we showed that video of that woman that didn't understand that a lemon comes off a lemon tree and you can just eat it off the tree. You don't have to go buy it from a store. Same kind of energy here. The term hamburger comes from Hamburg, Germany, where there was a dish known as the Hamburg steak that was developed. It was a hard slab of sliced minced meat, often with onions and breadcrumbs, and those German immigrants brought it in the 1880s to the United States. It became known as the Hamburger, in tribute to the name of the city Hamburg. Yeah, so there's that. Folks, if you're not following us on Rumble, that's where you go do it. You can see the chat is obviously loving the tards in the world. There are many of them. You can help them. You can help them by educating them and sharing our program. I appreciate when you guys do. Share it either on Apple, on Spotify. All you audio listeners, you guys, you are still the best. We do appreciate it. We've got like almost 400 views. I think 300 and something, maybe almost 350 reviews on Spotify. I'm going to beg you guys to do the ones on Apple. Again, we've got to get over this 1,000 mark. I have to believe that we're being censored over there. It would not shock me at all. But leave those. If you've left us a 5-star review before, please go leave us another one. Fill it out. The link is in the show description. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you click through there. It'll take you directly in. You can fill it in. Give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you like. Tell us what makes you laugh. Tell us what doesn't make you laugh. Tell us what makes you upset. We want to hear all those things. I got one more video. This is our palate cleanser as we go into Monday. We shouldn't go in feeling terrible. Apparently, I have now reached the age, and many of you are as well. Many of you are well past this, but you've already had this experience. This is my generation's experience of this. Apparently, the young people have discovered that wouldn't it be nice if there was a phone the whole family could use and it just stayed in the house? This is hard.
Like a phone that's for the whole family that stays in the house.
Oh, that's a landline. Oh, that's a house phone. Oh, how old am I? How old am I? How old have I gotten? Where people don't know what a house phone is. Oh, she explaining the house phone. Is that a goat?
It's so bad. I love that they come back. It's everything that was old is always new again, folks. If you guys don't know this, it happens in the firearm industry all the time. Like all the cool ideas, they come back, they get recycled. It's like, let's have get the scope all the way down and get the optic as low as possible. And suddenly you find out that you want to put it up at the top. And now they've gone back to putting them on carry handles and carry handle height. Everything that's old is always new. It's the way it goes. That's why bell bottoms come back. Folks, support the show by going to Patriot Coolers. Go to Catholic Vote, Mad Hat Jerky, MyPillow.com. You guys can use our promo code over there and the Suspendables merch store. We didn't hit any of them, but we've done enough today. Hang in there. We look forward to a fun week, and I look forward to it. You can leave me questions, comments, and sarcastic remarks at KyleSeraphin.com. We'll see you again very, very soon. Here's the 5-star review. A short and sweet one from the not-so-happy camper, so many of us out there in the world, talking about our friend Steve Baker coming back from our interview that we did with him in early May. A most excellent interview. 5 stars. Folks, leave your own review, and we look forward to seeing you again in the morning tomorrow at 0930 Eastern Time here on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. And God bless you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.